All right, ready to dive in. No need for a computer science degree today, promise. We're breaking down linear and nonlinear programming.
And you know what? This stuff goes way beyond just code. It's how we solve problems, organize our thoughts, even just understanding the world around us, really.
So let's start simple linear. Picture pyramids, not computer screens, right? Those ancient Egyptians.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't just wing it. Building a pyramid meant breaking it all down. Cut the stone, move it, lift it, place it. Each step, boom, 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 one after the other.
That's linear programming in a nutshell, a sequence, just like a recipe.
You got it.
You wouldn't bake a cake, then add the flour, would you?
Not if I plan on eating it.
Mm-hmm.
Our sources mention this program reads a file, processes the data, then generates a report. Can't make the report without the data. Can't get the data without reading the file first.
Exactly. Just like those pyramids. It's a set path, no detours. But now let's jump from ancient Egypt to something a little closer to home, your inbox.
Oh man, mine's less organized chaos, more like just chaos. Definitely no pyramids in there.
Right, but think about it. You can write an email while it's checking for new ones, filtering spam, even downloading stuff, all at the same time. That's nonlinear programming.
Okay, so if linear is like building a pyramid step by step, nonlinear is more like juggling flaming torches while riding a unicycle and answering trivia questions at the same time.
A bit dramatic, but yeah, you get the idea. It's about doing multiple things at once, maybe even having them interact with each other. One of our sources uses this example. Imagine processing a massive file, but instead of going line by line...
And split it up.
Exactly. You use these things called threaded functions. It's like different parts of your computer tackling different chunks of that file all at the same time.
Division of labor. Even computers need a team sometimes.
That's it. Much more efficient that way.
So our computers are catching up with how our brains work, huh?
Yeah.
Embracing the chaos.
In a way, yeah. But
Yeah.
that's what we build them for, right?
Yeah.
To handle the tough stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not just about raw power, this non-linear idea, events happening on their own, triggering stuff. It's everywhere in tech.
Okay, now you've got me curious. Give me an example.
Think about a web server. You go to a website, you're requesting information, right? But that server is handling tons of requests at once. Clicks, downloads, people all over the world. Each one's an event, setting off a chain reaction.
So even though I'm not literally pressing start, me going to the website is like the digital version of that, kicking off the nonlinear stuff.
Exactly. And that's where things get really interesting. Designing these systems means you got to understand that flow. You can't always predict the order of everything.
It's giving me choose your own adventure book vibes, but instead of picking the ending, you're making a system that can handle any ending.
I like that. But even beyond the big systems, this non-linear thinking, it applies to almost everything.
All right, now you have to explain.
Think about tackling a big task, like planning a trip. Doing it linear would be every step in order, boom, boom, boom. But nonlinear is more like researching destinations while you're checking flights, then maybe tweaking your itinerary, all kind of mixed together.
So it's like going with the flow of how our brains actually work instead of forcing it into one strict path.
That's it. And honestly, it's often more efficient, feels more natural, and way more interesting.
This is making me rethink my to-do list. Maybe I shouldn't just go straight down, but jump around a bit, see what grabs my attention.
You never know what you'll connect in your brain when you let it explore. Speaking of exploring, our source material dives into a specific PowerBASIC thing that shows this off.
All right, back to the code then. What's PowerBASIC got to say about getting nonlinear? So last we left off, we were digging into how PowerBASIC handles linear versus nonlinear. What's the deal there?
It's all about how these languages are put together, the tools they give you. With PowerBASIC, when you're doing those graphical interfaces, that's where things get interesting. Events and responses, that's the key.
Okay, so like me clicking a button, typing something in, those are all little missions I'm giving the program. And it's got to know what to do with them.
You got it. That's where callback functions come in. Little bits of code that are all about responding to you. So one might handle you hitting save. Another pops up when you type in a search bar. Makes it dynamic, not just waiting around.
So instead of a straight line of code, it's more like all these different paths it could take depending on what I do. Kind of like real life, huh?
Exactly. And that's the fun part of programming. You're not just writing code, you're designing how it all feels. Got to think like the user, what they might do, and make sure it all flows.
It's like when you're juggling a million things and somehow keeping them all up in the air, except here, the balls are code and what the user's doing.
Great way to put it. And it shows why this stuff matters, even if you never write code yourself. It's about understanding how things work, the patterns, the connections,
Like a secret code for the digital world.
Yeah.
that also happens to work for your to-do list or a creative project, surprisingly.
Right. New ways to look at problems, break them down. And to bring it back to our deep dive here, it comes down to this. Whether it's pyramids or code or just getting through your day, it's not always about that straight line. Sometimes the best stuff, the most interesting path, comes from embracing the chaos a bit.
You've given us a lot to think about today, so to everyone listening, next time you hit a wall, remember, don't be afraid to think outside that linear box. You might surprise yourself.
And hey, maybe this even inspires you to try some programming yourself, see these concepts in action.
And that's a wrap on this episode of The Deep Dive. Until next time, happy exploring.